If we learned anything from any of our Bilgewater episodes, word travels fast in a port city.
And also, if you're Pike, you can write underwater. I just wanted to see how long you would sit there staring. Welcome to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. Oh, it's episode 31. Oh, wait, no, it's 131. What are we doing? Where are we? Who am I?
You didn't even finish introducing yourself, let alone me. All right, that's
I'm
it.
your host, Ryan. I'm here with the other host, Edge. What's up?
Yeah, that's a wrap. Take care, everybody.
You would think after over 100 episodes, how could they make a mistake? Well, we're human. Well, Hedge is a human. I'm a vampire. It's a long story.
Oh my God. Get us to housekeeping. I can't with you today.
Up top. You can listen to us everywhere. Email us at podcastcore@gmail.com. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info. Remember, that's COR. Follow us on all the platforms if you can. We appreciate it. It helps with discoverability. But leave a like, leave a comment, and then tell a friend to become anything or anyone they want by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We control what kind of person that you are, all right? You think you want it, but we control it, all right? Call us a Black Lotus.
Today, we're talking about me, myself, and I, the Neeko story. Well, it's not the Neeko story, but it's Neeko's bio. We chose the title because we're creative. And, we're going to start off like every episode we do, right? Spells.
Yes. So, unfortunately, as far as like for Neeko, when it comes to the card game, it's kind of slim pickings as far as the spell. Just to be honest, so I was lame and just went with the champion spell. So we're going to talk about Shape Splitter. So this is a 3-mana fast speed spell, and it has create an exact ephemeral copy of an ally, then swap them. And as far as this card goes, like, I find nothing wrong with this card. I find it actually pretty damn good because we saw how Syncopation kind of flipped everything on its head when it came out. Yeah. I don't know if that's entirely, just Irelia's fault, like the pre-nerf Irelia, but Syncopation's still a really strong spell. This doesn't have the effect of being burst speed, but it does have the benefit of you can play it on a single unit. You don't have to have the wide board. So I think that's a fair trade-off for it. And otherwise, it's a good card. But of course, we have to talk about the flavor text here, which is just a direct quote from Neeko. And it is, Neeko is here. Neeko is there. Neeko could be anywhere. And I think that perfectly sums up Neeko. All right. Like, I can't think of a better way to sum up Neeko.
Yeah, this card does a great job of putting into perspective why Neeko exists. She's a champion that's not meant to be like some big shock to the system of the story or to be a big player. When you have, over 100 characters, you can't really, every character can't be important, right? But she is meant to be fun, carefree, and positive vibes, right? So her cards reflect that, her bio is going to reflect that, and the story as well.
100%. And going on with those, fun vibes, it takes us over to the follower. And this is a card that I do really like. We're going to talk about Anura and Froop, which is already just a fun name. So Anura and Froop is a 3-mana 2/2. And the effect they have is allies that have a different subtype than other allies in play cost 1 less. And when we get to talking about Neeko's card, this card will make sense as far as why it's so good with Neeko. Like, this is This is going to be played basically in every Neeko deck if your goal is to flip Neeko. But I mean, otherwise, like the effect is just good. You can never discount the power of discounting the cost of cards. That's always going to be a powerful effect. And the flavor text on this one is a direct quote from Anura, and it is, "I won't hurt you, friend. I came to this jungle for science, not destruction." And that combined with like the art, like it's just so freaking cute,
Yeah.
because you've got like this, a scientist in Anura with this gigantic frog like being worn as a backpack. But like if you open up the full card art on it, you can see that Neeko is actually the creature that Anura is talking to. Like,
Yep.
it's Neeko kind of backed up into a corner. And so, especially once we get like deeper into talking more about Neeko, having characters like this is just a good thing for Neeko specifically, because she is someone that is kind of afraid of just, all of society. So it's nice to see a friendly face when so much of the time she's running into unfriendly faces.
Exactly. So this takes us to our story. And like we mentioned, her story's not anything too crazy. It's pretty straightforward. It's an introduction of Neeko, where she came from, where she ends up, and then we get to know a bit more about her in the subsequent episode. But we start with Neeko being born on an unknown island in the east, far east. So we're thinking further than Ionia. Hetch has mentioned before, as we talked about the map and the geography, which we do a good bit, that this is essentially like the starting geography. We think that once we get an MO, once we get some more expansion in the universe, we're going to expand out. If you've played like World of Warcraft since it's been out, you know that the initial map is never the initial map, or never the future map, as we get more discovery. Because when you have pirates, when you have trade, when you have all these things, you tend to expand out more and more into unknown lands.
Yep, and we already know from that this is something that Riot has kind of set up for themselves with, the release of Arcane and getting more details as far as like hex tech technology and turning that into hex gates, and that combined with what we know about Bandle City, they set themselves a foundation to build upon the map that's already there. So Neeko is obviously going to be one of the characters that we could probably get to see like in an expansion of like, where do the Vastaya come from?
Yeah.
So, because we already don't know where her island is. It's not on the map.
Exactly. So this is where the last members of the ancient Vastayan tribe remain, called the Uvacat. And they are peaceful, and they have this spiritual essence known as Shoma that can blend with beings both physically and mentally within their proximity. And this allows them to essentially be mimics, right? You think about mimics in any fantasy, this is essentially what the Uvacat is.
All right. See, I was on board until you started comparing them to mimics from All
that's
Fantasy.
Right. I just realized,
and
my mistake.
I am sure there are other D&D players out there that just kind of went, "Oh no."
Yeah. I see where I have fallen.
but otherwise, no, like I fully agree with that. Like they are the mimics of this world. But luckily, thanks to the world that Riot's built, they're more along the lines of Yordles and not along the lines of D&D mimics. All right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we're looking at fun and fluffy, not Baldur's Gate 3.
True. So Neeko, compared to these other Uvacats, is more unique, right? She's more curious and energetic personality, and she likes to play games. She likes to do hide and seek with trinkets, and she lives this pure, innocent life on this island until a cataclysmic event happens. And this can be, listen, we're talking about Runeterra. This is episode 131. It could be any of many.
Like, because we've discussed at least 4 ruinations, 4 or 5 ruinations, and I mean, like, let's say you and I are wrong about the map growing. Yeah. All right, And so then if like we look at the map and then we turn it into like a globe, that would mean that this island would be kind of close to like the Freljord. And maybe this cataclysmic event was that they were, just part of the casualties of Volibear and
Yep.
Ornn's fight.
We're on the same page. I was
Yeah.
just about to say that. Yeah. We don't
So,
know. They don't specify.
right. Yeah, and as far as like I know, I don't think that there is anything out there that we could like guarantee pinpoint what cataclysmic event this is.
Yeah.
But we do know that it's enough to kind of chase Neeko out of her home.
Yeah. Yeah. And with the help of the elders who make a decision, to save the next generation, Nico's able to escape the destruction of her homeland. She turns into a bird, doesn't do very well in this transformation, but she's able to flee the smoldering destruction. And while she's fleeing, she can also feel kind of her people disappearing slowly and fading into the distance. And then days later, she's exhausted and she falls into the ocean or the sea and cling to driftwood. And this takes her to a mercantile vessel, which she boards quietly, that's heading towards Harrowport, Shurima.
Yeah, and I do kind of want to focus a little bit as far as like the with her escape, how she is sensing the the loss of her homeland and being able to feel her people fading away. Because that is kind of interesting because these are at the moment these are really the only details that we get about Shoma, which is very interesting because it's kind of plays out more like the Force, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, like I'm getting vibes of like Yoda sensing the Order 66 at
Yeah.
the end of the Clone Wars. So I that's kind of interesting, and it kind of I wonder if like Riot at some point maybe will try to play more with this whole Shoma thing and maybe like introduce another one of these ancient Vestians that can use the Shoma in a more aggressive way. I don't know, but I think that's kind of interesting that you know we already have so much that we can pull from other fantasy things that it's neat that they're still kind of adding more into this world because like especially when we're building up for an MMO, these are exciting things to be looking at, right? Like, hey, what if you could be a Jedi in Runeterra?
Yeah, it's definitely probably the most ephemeral thing we've talked about in Runeterra, because when we talk about the spirit realm as it applies to these ancient Vestias, it's not the same as the spirit realm in present day that Shen kind of can go in between, right? This is more of a fugue state than something so solidified and defined like that spirit realm. And it's also nothing like Bandle City, right? Which is essentially a realm in between realms, but it's also not in between timelines. So this is definitely its own new thing and probably the most important aspect of Nico's story.
Yeah. I mean, that just kind of reinforces like how little we know about Nico's people and how they interact with the Shoma, the spirit world,
Yeah.
and everything around them. And we may never get to know that because of Nico's origins. So, but that maybe that's an episode that we can do like later on because
Yeah.
now we got to follow her through Harrowport.
Yeah, not every story needs midichlorians, right? You don't have to. Sometimes not knowing is better than.
Yeah.
So once the ship arrives, she's kind of entranced by all the hustle and bustle of the different personalities and people in this crowd. Think like a Bilgewater, but before Bilgewater, because Bilgewater is just a giant port. And she was spotted by another Vestia, a sailor named Crete. And for my book club listeners, when you hang out with me, you'll know that there's a long history of Vestian sailors, specifically from Shurima, and that's kind of a reference to Venix in that story. So this is cool to see this callback because this is a very small detail. And he asked her, he's like, hey, where are you from? Who's your tribe? And she can't really understand his words because her people don't really talk. They kind of feel each other. And she tries to use Shoma by mimicking his face. He doesn't like this, and she can sense he doesn't like this because he's also mimicking his emotions. So she knows what he's feeling, and this kind of makes her scared.
Oh my goodness. Could you
For probably the first time in her life, too.
Yeah. Could you imagine that like you just like see someone that you like reminds you of like maybe like a cousin
Yeah.
or like someone that you met like maybe years ago that it's like, oh my god, they look just like that person. And then it's like you go up to them and you just try to see like maybe they know them or whatnot,
Yeah.
and instead of responding to you at all, their face just changes to yours. Like
Yeah.
I too would be a little afraid and
And in a
possibly
port city,
angry.
this will spread. This experience will spread.
If we learned anything from any of our Bilgewater episodes, word travels fast in a port city.
And also, if you're Pike, you can write underwater. That's a deep cut for our veteran listeners.
Oh my goodness. That is a real deep cut. I love it.
So she runs off into the crowd and she's constantly changing her shape for safety reasons so no one can really know what's going on until she's able to escape into some lush surrounding greenery, which she's more comfortable with. And now she's in the hinterlands, right? Neeko's kind of reflecting on her experience as she's in this space. And she's baffled that, this specific species of people relies on language to communicate. It feels limiting to her.
I mean, it would feel limiting if you're like, as again, like to kind of beat a dead horse, like the Force reference. Like, if you're able to communicate using the Force and basically like just telepathic communication at all times, it's like, why would I have to open my air hole? Like, what is wrong with these guys?
We see this. I get to do a deep cut here, or a reference to some my Forgotten Realms people. So, if you're familiar with illithids and certain dark elves that like to hang around with illithids with certain magical traits, sometimes, I mean, first of all, it's rare for a non-illithid to be around them and to be in that society. But when that person has to reintegrate outside of that, they sometimes lose the ability to speak the drow language, for instance, because they're like, oh shit, I haven't used my mouth in so long, right? Because that's not the way they communicate, because for illithids, that would be inefficient and limiting.
Yep. And I like that's exactly what Neeko is basically expressing here, which it makes sense to me. Like, because not only is it the fact that you haven't used your mouth forever, but like the other like I think the illithids are not a good example for this statement, but like being able to communicate with the Shoma is a more intimate form of communication as well, because you're sensing emotions. So you don't have to worry about what that person's thinking because you're both on the same page at all times. Whereas like it is very limiting as far as words. I don't know if I would want to have like that intimate discussion with illithids, but to each their own.
It's been written, it's happened, and we know the result. We know that it doesn't turn out well.
Yep. That's a different show. That is a very different show.
So we get a cameo here while she's in the jungle. Neeko finds a group of jungle cats and she transforms into a jungle cat and just kind of runs along with them. And she feels more at place in this situation. She feels more comfortable in this environment as well. And then suddenly the leader transforms into this beautiful, strong, dark-haired woman. And this throws her off.
I finally was comfortable. And then all of a sudden there's someone else who can transform. And they're not of the same Vestayan race as me. I'm thrown for a loop, full on panic attack mode. But if there's any League of Legends fans out there, or even now any Runeterra fans out there, you know who this is. You know who she's run into. We got Nidalee showing up.
What?
And I for one am always going to be a fan of seeing Nidalee in any story. Totally not for personal reasons.
Yeah.
Totally
you. We know. It's been 100 episodes. You can't hide in the shadows anymore. You creep.
So what skin was she using?
So as Nidalee reveals herself, she's hesitant to accept Neeko in the group, but she does. And Nico's hesitant to trust them with some of her secrets about her background because she is very different. And even with those two things, they keep hanging out, and soon you get a friendship that blossoms. And for months, they just roam around the wilds together, living out their best lives.
I like this. This is obviously, like, for me, this is like the best part of the story because it's like so many of like these kind of more, I guess, comedic relief characters,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term. Like you just kind of want them to be happy
Yeah.
because it's like that's all they want. They just want to be happy, and this is arguably like the best point of her story because it's like it was very reluctant at first, but they were able to reach an understanding and become friends.
Yeah.
And that's all Neeko wants is friends because all of her friends are probably dead already.
Yeah.
Like that's rough. So it's like, yay, go live your best life. Go turn into a cat and run around the forest.
Don't we all wish we could?
Yep.
Cats don't pay taxes.
And they can poop wherever they want. Other people will clean it up.
So during this time frame, there's still that nagging thing in the back of Nico's mind because she's a curious figure, right? She likes to go into the unknown, even though it scares her. And that thought is the towns and cities that they're passing by, that are around the jungles. And she wants to go. She wants to go there again, but she also wants them to come with her. She wants this group to join her on this journey, but she can't convince Nidalee to do so and can't convince the group to join her on this journey. So she's sad about it, but she is determined to do it, so she leaves alone.
And this is definitely like the part of her story that does set her apart from some of like the other Yordles
Mhm.
stories. Obviously she's not a Yordle, but her storyline is very similar to a Yordle. Because I mean, this is the same things that we would hear with like Poppy, Rumble. It's that they were different from the other Yordles.
Yeah.
They wanted to adventure out and they found curiosity in humans and they went out. Whereas for Nidalee, like, or not Nidalee, for Neeko, she has ventured out.
Yeah.
She has found a new group that she is trusted, and instead of settling in with this group, and this is where her bio ends, she's determined to do something more grandiose.
Yeah.
And as far as like that grandiose goal is to essentially recreate the society that she's lost, like try to recreate a society that is more in tune with Shoma than just with the limited ways of humans. So that I do like this little detail in there, even though it does make me sad because again, we just want the cute little cinnamon roll to be happy. And she's foregoing that initial happiness for a loftier goal that will end up making her happy too.
Yeah. And that takes us to our card. It's where the bio ends. We leave off for now until our story episode. So check that out when it comes out. But her card is pretty unique to Neeko. Obviously, she's of the Runeterra region, no specific attached region, which means she has an origin card. And the origin card is for the many-shaped jungle friends, which says that you may put a bird, cat, dog, elnic, fae, reptile, and spider followers into your deck during deck building. And this plays into her ability. So she's a 2/2. Two, I forgot one. And she has on the play, you may disguise me as one of 3 2-cost followers from my origin. And to level up, you've attacked with allies that have 6 different subtypes. So Hetch mentioned the subtypes earlier and the cards that help you discount those so you can actually play them.
Yep, and I do like that this has like the disguise on it because it kind of adds like another level to Runeterra that we haven't really had before, of like that kind of gotcha play style. So that is already something that's very interesting to me. And then of course, I like to build really bad decks. So I have played a lot with like Elnooks and Poros already. So to finally have a champion that really speaks to that kind of
Yeah.
play style is just already, good job. They nailed this. But
As he
but of
builds
course,
a magic rat deck.
shut
This
up.
guy. I'll
I
never
will
understand.
run over Friday Night Magic with rats. I swear it. But obviously, again, like this is one where I think like they did a good job of translating like how the champion plays in League of Legends to Runeterra, and we haven't even talked about the flip side yet.
Yeah, the quote on the front side, real quick, is Neeko can take many shapes, but her heart never changes, always leading her back to her family and her forest. And that's referencing not her, like her found family and forest post bio.
Yes.
And then flip
And
side, go ahead.
Like as far as like the found family, if you're curious about it, just open the full card art of the front
it's super
side,
cute.
and you will see the found family, and her found family is adorable.
On the flip side, she gets that +1/+1 we're familiar with. She gets elusive, which makes sense. And then she has attack, grant allies that have a subtype everywhere, +1/+1.
Dude, the fact that the word there is grant is awesome. All right. Like and this is something that like, really dumb players like myself really needed for, your Poro decks, which was a way to finish the game, right? Like, or I guess not really finish the game. It was a way to stick, like to have that just, inevitability to it. And like if Neeko's granting them +1/+1 every attack, oh yeah, they're gonna have to deal with it. So I'm very excited to have Neeko in the game.
Yeah, and then the quote on this side is shapes and colors, colors and shapes. Neeko can be them all.
How trippy would it be if there was just a floating circle? Like she just appears to you as like just a ball of gas. It's like, what the hell? And then the ball of gas just starts talking.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the color aspect of her sensory later because it's just way more in the story. But for now, that's the story for today. So always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Yeah, take care, everybody.